Today we will discuss in detail one of the most famous stories by Nikolai Gogol, The Overcoat. Yes, absolutely. This is a story that is both unexpectedly tragic and very close to human nature. And its central character is Akaki Akakiyevich, a poor Russian clerk whose life is, you could say, quite dull and lonely. Exactly. His entire world revolves around his small job, copying documents, and his old, worn-out overcoat. And that overcoat is not just a piece of clothing. In that cold, harsh world, it is his only shield. His identity, absolutely. And when he finally, after great difficulty, manages to save enough money to buy a new overcoat, it becomes like a symbol of a new life for him. Pride, a little respect. But that happiness doesn't last long. The coat gets stolen, and he is completely shattered. Through this story, Gogol beautifully portrays the cruelty of bureaucracy, the indifference of society, and the silent suffering of ordinary people who only seek a little dignity and recognition. Well said. So let's go into detail. First, what kind of person was Akaki Akakiyevich? As you said, he was a very ordinary man. His appearance reflected that too. Short in height, faint smallpox marks on his face, thinning reddish hair, wrinkles on his cheeks. Nothing remarkable about him, and even his name is quite strange. Akaki Akakiyevich Bashmakhin. Yes, indeed. He inherited the name. The story mentions that at his birth, several names were considered. But eventually, his father's name was given, as if fate had already decided he would live an insignificant life. And his job was just as modest, a titular counselor, a very low rank in the Russian bureaucracy. His work was simply copying documents. Was he happy with his job, or was it just a compulsion? He actually enjoyed it. Interestingly, even after office hours, he would continue copying at home. Perhaps it was his way of escaping the monotony of life, or maybe it was the only thing he had control over. Otherwise, he was completely disconnected from the world. How did his colleagues treat him? Mostly they mocked him. They took advantage of his simplicity and silence. There is a moment when a new clerk, following others, begins to tease him, and Akaki, deeply hurt, says, "Leave me alone. Why do you torment me?" His voice was filled with such helplessness that the young clerk fell silent. So internally, he was deeply hurt, absolutely, and his salary was very low, just 400 rubles a year, which was insufficient even at that time. And the biggest symbol of his poverty was his old overcoat. What was it like? It was in terrible condition. So old and torn that people jokingly called it a dressing gown. In the harsh winters of St. Petersburg, it was completely useless. It wasn't just clothing. It symbolized his poverty, his weakness, and his helplessness against a harsh world. When it became completely unusable, he went to a tailor, Petrovich. Yes, Petrovich is an interesting character. A former serf who became a tailor, partially blind in one eye with facial marks, and a fondness for drinking. What did Petrovich say after seeing the coat? He immediately said it was beyond repair. It was so worn out that any stitching would tear it further. The only solution was a new coat, and the price must have shocked Akaki absolutely. Petrovich initially quoted 150 rubles. Considering Akaki earned 400 rubles annually, this was nearly half his salary. He was devastated, but he didn't give up. No, and from here his life found a new purpose. The overcoat was no longer just a necessity. It became a dream, an obsession. What did he do to save money? He completely changed his lifestyle. Extreme frugality. He stopped drinking tea in the evenings, reduced candle use, stopped giving clothes to the washer, even walked carefully to avoid wearing out his shoes. Sometimes he skipped meals. His only focus was saving money. After months of struggle, he received a bonus, about 60 rubles, which was a huge amount for him. With savings, he gathered around 80 rubles and went back to Petrovich. This time it worked. They bought materials, good cloth, a cheaper but durable lining, and instead of expensive fur, they used cat fur for the collar. Petrovich took about 2 weeks to make the coat. During that time, Akaki was overjoyed, constantly checking on the progress. Finally, the coat was ready. One of the happiest moments in the story. It fit perfectly, and he couldn't hide his happiness. At the office, everyone noticed. For the first time, he received attention, respect, and compliments. A colleague even hosted a party in celebration. For Akaki, this was completely new. He felt out of place, but overall happy, a rare experience in his otherwise dull life. But then the story takes a tragic turn. Yes, while returning home late at night, he was attacked by thugs in a deserted square. They threatened him, knocked him down, and stole his new overcoat. When he regained consciousness, he was alone in the freezing cold. Everything was gone. He went to the police, but instead of help, he was questioned as if it were his fault. This showed the system's indifference. Colleagues showed sympathy and even tried collecting money, but it wasn't enough. Someone advised him to approach an important official, a person of consequence. This official, recently promoted, cared more about authority and protocol than humanity. When Akaki finally met him after much effort, instead of helping, the official scolded him for not following proper procedure. This encounter devastated Akaki. He fell ill with a severe fever and, with no one to care for him, eventually died. Quietly, unnoticed. Just like his life. But the story doesn't end there. After his death, rumors spread of a ghost haunting the streets of St. Petersburg, especially near Kalinkin Bridge, stealing overcoats from passers-by. People believed it was Akaki's ghost, seeking justice or revenge. One night, the same official encountered the ghost. Terrified, he handed over his own expensive overcoat. After this, he became a kinder person, realizing the consequences of abusing power. In the end, the story makes us reflect on how fragile human dignity is, especially in a system where status is valued over humanity. Akaki's ghost becomes the voice of all those ignored and unheard. Gogol's story remains relevant even today, a reflection of societies where power suppresses compassion. It makes us question how we treat the Akakis around us. If this discussion helped you understand the story, please like, share, and subscribe to Kahani Nama for more literary explorations.